Hey Pennsylvania, it's Wine O'Clock on Wine Time PA. Join Rob, Holly, and Steve as they explore their home state of Pennsylvania and all the wonderful wineries it has to offer. Each month, they take a journey tasting the wines of PA. If you're able, pour a glass of your favorite wine and join us now for Wine Time.
Welcome to Wine Time PA. I'm one of your hosts, Holly, and today I'm joined with my two co-hosts, my husband, Steve.
Hello.
And our good friend, Rob.
Hello.
Whether you're a returning listener or a first-time listener, thanks for tuning in. If you're wondering what this podcast is about, the PA doesn't stand for public announcement. It stands for the state of Pennsylvania. We are just three everyday people who enjoy wine and then spend our free time visiting the wineries in our home state, and we share experiences on this podcast and hope that it'll encourage you to take a visit to these wineries. Today, we are wrapping up a sort of mini-series we have been doing this year on the Lake Erie wine country. For those not familiar, alongside Lake Erie, there is 53 miles of beautiful vineyards nestled along this great lake with tons of wineries worth exploring. Today, we'll be discussing one of those wineries, and that is Mazza Vineyards. Now, Mazza is located in the town of Northeast. They are open 7 days a week, except for major holidays. Their hours do vary and do change depending on the season, so be sure to check ahead when planning your visit. You do not need a reservation to visit either, as they are on a first-come, first-served basis winery. We visited on a Sunday afternoon in June of 2025 and had no issues that day in terms of getting served and finding a place to sit. Also, keep in mind any information we share today is from that time frame. Also, this was a must-visit winery for us when planning a visit to this region. I'm going to turn over to Rob now, who's going to give us a little more info and history and explain why Mazza was a must-visit for us.
So Joseph Mazza was an Italian immigrant who moved to the U.S. in the mid-1950s. In 1962, they moved to the town of Harbor Creek on Lake Erie and purchased a vineyard called Mazza Vineyards. Joseph's sons, Robert and Frank, incorporated Mazza Vineyards in 1972 and opened the winery in 1973. The first Pennsylvania wineries opened in 1969, so they're not the oldest winery in the state, but they are among the oldest in the state. However, there was not this volume of wineries there is today, and they are the only one of the older wineries.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how long they've been around. I mean, since the very beginning, we take for granted that there's almost 400 now, but...
Right, and this is only, 60, 70 years that these wineries have
50,
been around?
Yeah, so it's impressive.
Yeah, they've obviously been successful to be operating for 50 straight years like that.
So Robert and Frank would continue to be heavily involved in the Pennsylvania wine industry, and it seems they played a big part in helping make the Pennsylvania wine scene what it is today. Frank served 2 terms as president of the Pennsylvania Grape Industry Association, which is now called the Pennsylvania Winery Association. His brother Robert would end up serving 3 terms as president later. He was also appointed to the Pennsylvania Farm Show Commission and in 2002 was named first chairman of the Pennsylvania Wine Marketing Research Board. It sounds like their children are still involved with Mazza and continues to be a family-based winery. Besides their history in helping to establish Pennsylvania wines, the reason we knew we had to visit this winery is they are the largest wine producer in the state. They do produce close to 500,000 gallons of wine a year.
Wow, that's a lot.
That is a lot of wine.
It's not really surprising, though, because there's a number of places that we've gone around the state of Pennsylvania, and it'll be like we'll be at a brewery, and they'll have Mazza Winery available.
Right.
So,
and that's also because they have 600 acres of vineyards to which they work from, but they also do work with some of the local farmers for their grapes. And so remember that this is a wine region that is on the border of New York, and some of their stuff does come from New York. So not everything is 100% Pennsylvania grown, but it's within several miles, and it's still all the same AVA.
yeah, and even though Mazza is the flagship winery, they have 2 other locations. One is in New York. It's the Mazza Chautauqua Cellars, and that shares a property with a brewery/distillery that they also own called 5 and 20 Spirits and Brewing. The other location is actually not far from their flagship, and it is called South Shore Wine Company. We actually originally planned to also stop by South Shore, but there is a limit to how much we can drink in a weekend and provide unimpaired results to you, the listeners.
And that was just going to be one winery, one too many, I think. For
Yeah,
us.
I think it would have been one too many. I agree.
Whirlwind tour up there.
I'm going to think the state police are happy that we didn't go to yet another one too.
Yeah.
But it is on our list to visit next time we're in the area. You will find some overlapping wines at all of their locations as well, but each has their own labels and sometimes their own wines. In terms of the original Mazza, I think we were all sort of surprised when we pulled in. I think we kind of expected this big, large, almost industrial setting just because we knew how much they produced and how well known they were across the state. But really, it looks like somebody's nice Italian countryside home. It's nothing super big, has nice tan stucco outside with the terracotta styled roof tiles. There's some seating outside, both in the grass and on this patio. Then you'll go up the stairs onto the second floor where you'll access the tasting room entrance, and inside just keeps with that Italian home aesthetic. There's the classic plastered white walls with dark wood ceilings and trims like around the door frames. The floors are this red tile that sort of resembles brick. And inside, there's basically two main rooms. One is where all the wine is displayed, and there's a counter for purchase. You can see some of the wine bottles with the medals and awards that they've achieved over the years. The other room is where you're going to enjoy your tasting, and it has tables and chairs for seating, and a nice wooden bar to order your wine.
Yeah, and I also want to comment in the tasting room, there was this doorway to another room that was basically like the doorway to, like, I think the restroom, maybe where some offices were for the staff. And above it, there was this painting of the vineyard along the lake. And I really liked that. That just caught my eye. I thought it was a nice touch to kind of nod to the area as well. But yeah, overall, I thought it was a cute tasting room. In terms of wine, we were given a menu, and it was broken down differently than what we've typically had, which was kind of cool. They were broken down as follows into collections, and these are the collections names. The first was the Tribute Collection, and there were 7 wines, and these were defined as their core collection of classics. Next was the Second Gen Cider and Getaway Canned Wines, and there were 4 of these, and we ended up skipping these. These were just like ciders and some sparkling wines, and I think they were all canned. I don't think they were available for
I think
taste.
that's right.
Yeah, under normal circumstances, I would love to try them, but we were there on official business, so.
Yeah, yep, exactly. Then there was the La Familia collection, and it's listed as eclectic and ever-evolving, reflecting their lineage of international winemakers.
Ooh, that sounds fancy.
Yeah, it felt like the fancy ones. Then there's the Bare Bones wines, and these are 4 wines, and these are listed as no frills and just great crowd pleasers, and I think we all agree with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Crowd pleasers for sure.
Yeah.
I remember you trying them. That's exactly what I thought.
Spoilers, more to come later.
Yeah, there might be some more coming about those Bare Bones wines. And then finally, there was the Vineyard Country Collection, which was 6 wines, and these were described as easy sipping, sweeter wines, highlighting the region's signature grapes. So all these collections are a mix of wines in terms of like reds, whites, rosés. I think there's even some port and some ice wines on the menu. And to sample these wines, they do offer flights. You can do pre-selected flights that they have listed, or you can do a custom flight. Now note, the wines in the La Familia collection are part of their own flight, and they were not available in the custom flights that day.
Now, as far as prices of the wines go, bottles range from about $13 up to as high as $55. However, there were only a couple at that higher price range, and most of their bottles were generally in the $20 or under category, with their drier reds being in the low to mid 20s. So fairly reasonable overall, but there were a few pricier wines as mentioned. Also, as mentioned, there were some ciders if you were not into wine that they had available. They also do mimosa flights on the weekend, so if you're there on a weekend, you can enjoy some mimosas. You can also enjoy some craft beer if you're a beer drinker. Finally, they have some non-alcoholic grape juice flights that you can taste, and I don't know how, but somehow we missed that and did not even try that when we were there.
How did we miss that?
We would have had room for grape juice. I mean,
Yeah, I know.
Non-alcoholic grape juice?
Yeah, I know.
Absolutely.
I was looking at the menu afterwards. I'm like, how did I miss that on the menu?
Yeah, that's a real shame, especially being in, grape country where
Right.
they make a lot of grape juices. We really should have. It's a shame. So in terms of food, they do ask you not to bring your own unless there is a dietary concern. They do offer some snacks for purchase that include like cheese wedges, meat, crackers, some chocolates, other snacks. So I wouldn't exactly plan to go there hungry expecting to have a full meal. but they have some nice snacks that you can enjoy while tasting your wine. Also, there's something interesting that we heard while we were visiting. So Mazza apparently put down a dozen or so bottles of their sparkling Riesling at the bottom of Lake Erie to ferment, I think we just thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they just pulled it out a few days after we left the region. So that was kind of interesting timing. It sounds like they are going to be released in the fall and could be out maybe by the time this airs.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool because that was like kind of all the buzz when we were up there. And I might have to try and get a bottle of that. Like, maybe.
Yeah,
just
it might
have
be a little
line,
pricey.
I'm just kind of curious how it tastes.
I think they do ship, so.
Yeah, they do. So I'm just kind of curious how that would taste. Anyway, let's move on to the fun part where we discuss the wines themselves. As a reminder, when we go into this part of the show, we will first discuss 2 group picks of wines. These are wines that all 3 of us enjoyed and think would be a good crowd pleaser. Then we'll each pick 2 wines that we personally enjoyed. As always, these recommendations and picks are based on our own personal preferences, and we are not being paid or endorsed for these suggestions. Rob, I'm going to give you the honor of introducing our first group pick, as it somehow seems fitting you would introduce this wine.
Yeah, thanks, Holly. This first group pick is their Merlot.
Yeah.
Now, I get excited when the both of you find a Merlot that you enjoy. And this one, obviously, is a group pick, so you did enjoy this one. And Merlots are among my favorite wines. It's certainly probably my favorite dry red wine. But this one surprised me a little bit, and especially you, Steve, because this was oaked in some American oak. And I know you prefer French oak.
Yeah, there's something harsh about American oak that I don't really love. And it goes beyond wine, too. It even goes into like whiskey and stuff. But when it's lightly oaked enough, it can imbue some really nice flavors and textures and stuff. And I think they did a good job with the amount of time it's spent on oak.
Yeah, I don't shy away from American oak or French oak. I mean, I might prefer French oak a little bit more too, just because it cuts down some of that harshness. But yes, this was a lightly oaked in that American oak, but it had all those classic Merlot flavors like dark cherries, maybe some currants. It was very smooth to drink, had some very light tannins in the finish. But I even noticed in that finish there was some fruitiness in there, but it was just a well-balanced and a really enjoyable Merlot.
Yeah, I agree. I thought this was a really well done. I don't like Merlot usually, and
Yeah.
I tasted this one and thought, hey, this one's not bad. I could drink this.
Like I said, I get excited when the two of you
Yeah.
find a Merlot you like.
Yeah, I thought it was really nice. I actually bought a bottle for a friend of mine who likes Merlots just to see, because, if we overlap, if she likes this Merlot as much as I do, because I was surprised by how much I liked it.
Yeah, it was just smooth, and I remember taking notes. It was like it just drank a bit milder than a lot of other Merlots, which I just really liked. And yeah, I got some nice cherry notes in it, which just added a little something extra.
Yeah, sometimes those cherry notes can be a little muted in there, but that one really, the cherry did shine in it.
Yeah, it was a good pick. And again, we go for these crowd pleasers. This is definitely like serve with dinner, especially if you're maybe having red meat or something for people over. But all right, so Steve, why don't you tell us what our second group pick was?
Yeah, we're going to the Bare Bones with Bare Bones White. So this, for me, it just had some of these really nice fruit flavors and some citrus, and it was a touch sweet in the beginning. It was just the right amount of acidity for me, and it just made the whole wine just feel just fresh and balanced. For me, it was just really easy to drink. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, this was a great wine. I looked it up. It was a blend of the Cayuga, Traminette, Vidal Blanc, Riesling, and the Valvin Muscat.
Yeah, I mean, you just said 5 grapes that I like. So.
There's not one in there that I don't think any of us would really shy away from. So yeah, it was just a nice white blend. I like those citrus flavors and, right amount of acidity at the finish there. It's just really well done.
Yeah, very balanced.
Yeah, I got the notes of the floral, the honey, and the citrus, and even some earthiness, which I think came from the Riesling that I could tell was there in the finish. And again, I thought this was just a great wine, and I'll go back to crowd pleaser. This could go great with a variety of meals if you're hosting a dinner party or people over. I think it's just an exceptional wine.
Yeah, I think the only people that wouldn't like this are people that only drink dry reds.
Very true. All right, so let's move on to what our personal picks are. And I'm going to kick us off, and I'm actually going to stick with the Bare Bones series. These were great wines, and I can see why they listed them as crowd pleasers. And I'm going to go with the Bare Bones Rosé. And this is no exception, to those Bare Bones. They're fantastic. This one was made from the Chambourcin grape. It has some really nice notes of melon, a really great acidity, and I even got like a little creaminess. Overall, I think it was a good wine, and I think if you're a rosé drinker or you like some rosés, I think you could give this a try, and I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, I thought it was a good one, and it almost kind of reminded me of a pink Catawba, which lo and behold is my first pick is their pink Catawba. And
Shocker.
Yeah.
shocker,
Boy, Rob's really on point today.
yes, Steve and I like the pink Catawbas, and that Bare Bones Rosé. At first, I kind of thought it was a pink Catawba just because of the coloring and that, but no, it was from the Chamberson. But I like the pink Catawbas, and this one was really good. It had a really sweet start, fruitiness in the front, but it really balanced out well with some of that tartness in the finish. Just had a great aroma, great pink coloring, and just a solid example of one of my favorite grapes, one of Steve's favorite grapes, which is the pink Catawba.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this as well. I liked that it wasn't overly sweet. I love the taste of the Catawba grape, and I love the wines when they get that bit of skin contact that makes them pink. I don't always love that they're sweet, and this one was a little less sweet, and I enjoyed that. I would only wish they were a little bit more tart, but I always want it to be a little more tart, so
You and your tart.
yeah, I love tart. All right, so for my first personal pick, I'm going to stick with Bare Bones as well, and I'm going to go with their Bare Bones Moscato.
Good pick.
Yeah, very on brand for me.
Exactly.
Yeah, so this one just had these obvious Moscato aromas in the beginning. It was just citrusy and had a wonderful amount of orange blossom, which is the thing that I just really love about Moscatos. I don't know what it is. I feel like I need to just get some of that flower and just chew on it myself. But yeah, it had a little bit of acidity, more than most Moscatos that I've tried, and I thought that worked really well. It helped tone down any of that traditional sweetness a little bit. And it had a bit of effervescence too, which also, paired with that acidity, just brought the sweetness down and just made it a little easier to drink. And I really enjoyed it. Bought a bottle. Looking forward to opening it.
Yeah, I look forward to sharing it with you. I really like this Moscato. It's probably been a while since I've really enjoyed a Moscato like this. I'm with you. I love that orange blossom. I liked the acidity that brought down the sweetness and just that little bit of bubble. I love my sparkling wines too. I just thought this was a great, well-rounded Moscato, and I really enjoyed it.
My only comment is that you guys both said my comments. So I enjoyed this Moscato. Even that little bubbliness in there was really nice and made it stand out a little bit more.
Yeah, and I think we at one point debated on making that a group pick as well. I think it was in contention.
It was in contention, I think.
But I think the Bare Bones White just won out a little bit more because it just seems like a little bit more of a crowd pleaser. But
yeah, and they're both delicious. So
yeah, they really are.
All right, so I'll kick into my second personal pick, and that is the Appassionado. So this is like a complex red. It kind of starts just a little bit sweet and tastes of like the cherry. Then it finishes nice and dry. It kind of reminds me of a sherry, but just with a lot less alcohol. I think it was at 15%. And to be honest, that works for me because sherries are good, but there's too much alcohol in it for me. Like this one, I could drink all day. It was dry enough that it didn't just, make you feel like you're getting sugar, but it gave you that little bit of sweetness, and it changed and modified as you drank it. It was just, yeah. But be warned, it was $50 a bottle. So, and there's even an upcharge for the flight on this one. So,
yeah, it was in the
but I mean, I think it was worth it. It was fabulous. Good dry red.
Yeah, I commented this seemed like a dark wine to me, and sometimes I joke about how certain wines evoke images in my head, and my note was villain wine. Like, I don't know why, I just pictured like a villain there with their wine in their glass drinking this, plotting their plan to take over the world or something, but it just
I could see myself doing that, sitting on a throne drinking this wine all day while
the kitty, with
yeah. So, but that's
while my minions plot to take over the princess.
Okay, we're getting off track here.
No, that was a good wine, and I had some notes that had like a really deep, earthy, and smokiness to it that I really enjoyed. So it was another good pick there, Steve.
Yeah, I don't remember the smokiness, so that's funny that you got that.
Yeah, I have it written down in my notes.
Oh yeah,
I think I put smoke in mine too. But yeah.
Yeah, fascinating.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right, I think I'm kicking off my second pick here. Brace yourselves, folks. I picked the Concord.
It's not like you.
No.
I mean, I picked
That's
two
like
sweet wines here.
Yeah.
I picked the Pink Catawba and now Concord.
And Steve's over here picking the dry red.
Exactly.
You guys switched
Um,
bodies again.
but I just felt like somewhere along our trip to Lake Erie country, wine country, we had to talk about a Concord along the way. Not that we were going out of our way to do so, or certainly I wasn't going out of my way to do so, but this was just one of the best Concords I've ever had. It had that just wonderful grapey aroma to it, all the classic grapey Concord flavors. But what I thought made this unique in a good way was that at the finish, it just kind of evaporated off your tongue out there. And again, I'm usually not a sweet drinker. I'll drink a glass here or there, but I bought a bottle of this because I really enjoyed this Concord and looking forward to sharing this with my sister.
Yeah, I kind of remember it was sort of funny because we almost didn't get this because of how the flights were working out. And
Yeah.
we were just like, we have to try their Concord. That's the largest volume grape that's grown in that region. We have to try it. And yeah, I loved it too. It was a really good Concord. And yeah, what else do you expect from a region dedicated to
Right.
growing
Right.
that volume for Welch's? So it didn't disappoint.
Yeah, and I agree with all it said. I really like the Concord. And this is one of those, like, Concord is something usually I can drink some, but I don't go out of my way to drink. This is one I would actually go out of my way
Yeah,
to
exactly.
drink. Like, if somebody put a glass in front of me and they said, oh, here's a Concord, I'd be like, eh. And they said, oh, it's from Mazza. I'd be like, ooh, yes, please, give me more. Anyway, and I also noted it had a really beautiful red color as
Yeah.
well. So it was a really nice Concord. All right, so I think that rolls into me with my last personal pick. And this is a shocker for me too. I went with the ice wine Vidal Blanc. Now, I think this is the first time an ice wine we've ever picked or discussed on this show.
Yeah.
For those unfamiliar, an ice wine is made from grapes that were frozen on the vine. When it's frozen, the water freezes in the grape, but not the sugars, so it leads to a very concentrated and a very sweet wine. So these are 100% meant to be a dessert wine. They are sweet. And I've had ice wines before, and usually I don't like them because they're way too sweet, or I'm always try them like, not bad. This one really impressed me, though. Yeah, it was sweet, but it's what I like in something sweet. This is an odd note, but it reminded me of icing on a cupcake, and I like icing, so it's the first one too. And there was some vanilla, but really what finished this off was there was some really nice notes of apricot, and I shockingly really enjoyed this wine, and I had to talk about it because it really surprised me.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. Ice wines are nice to sample. I don't think we've hardly ever bought many, just because they're so sweet. So a nice little sample here and there. But that's what it's meant for. It's meant for having a little bit after dinner as part of your dessert. And yeah, I really enjoyed this one too. I loved that apricot. It was obvious apricot, which is something you don't get a lot. And I got some notes of honey too, and the flavor combinations just worked really well together. It was very, very enjoyable.
Yeah, I tend to shy away from ice wines just because of how sweet they tend to be. But this one was pretty good. And I got some notes of some floral notes in there, like some flowers in the aroma. And I even had a note of, and this is kind of from the Vidal grape, that I got a little bit of like a popcorn taste
Oh, interesting.
to it in there. And I get that a lot of times with Vidals in particular, but it wasn't bad. If you put a glass in front of me, I'll drink this, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to seek it out probably. It's just a little too sweet for my taste buds,
Yeah, I thought it was
but
nice.
it's good.
Yeah, it was nice, but yeah, let's try. Okay, so let's move into some honorable mentions. I think we just have a couple here, and I just want to shout out, honestly, the Victorian Holiday. And this is a warm wine, and I think it's really aptly named. Again, when I take a sip, sometimes I'm transported to something in my mind. And to this, it was a Victorian setting, just like the name says. It was 95 degrees and sunny that day, but I was picturing myself in full Victorian garb, going around singing Christmas carols while Scrooge is across the way, with tiny
humbug.
tips. But anyway, it served warm. It was spice, clove, nutmeg, cinnamon, and all the right flavors blended together. It reminded me of eating a warm piece of cinnamon bread on a cold December day. And honestly, with the holidays right around the corner, if you like warm wine in the winter, I would run and grab a bottle of this.
Yeah, it was incredible warm. If it hadn't been 95 degrees out that day, I think I probably would have enjoyed it a lot more too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely Christmas in a bottle. I mean, that's the easiest way to put it. I'll shout out the Cabernet Franc. Nice dry red wine. Again, I've been impressed by the dry reds in a region known for their sweet wines, just how well balanced. Not only this wine, but all their wines really at Mazza were really balanced and just very consistent across the board. The Cab Franc was I liked a little bit of the smokiness in there. It was a lighter bodied, had those right peppery notes, some light tannins, and again, just another great example of a dry red in a region known for sweet wines.
And all of the wines that I thoroughly enjoyed have been spoken for. So,
So we hit all the bases. All right, so let's wrap up our episode here on Mazza Vineyards. And Mazza is an icon in the Pennsylvania wine industry and another winery worth a stop if you're in the Lake Erie wine region. You can find more information about them and their other properties at enjoymazza.com, and Mazza is spelled Mazza. And as we wrap up some of these episodes in the Lake Erie wine region, we do want to say that we are not done exploring this part of our state. It's just the furthest region for us to get to, but know that we will return someday. We would love your suggestions as well as to what other wineries we should consider on our next visit to that region. So find us on Instagram or Facebook under WineTime PA and let us know your recommendations. Also, if you haven't liked or subscribed to this podcast, please do so and share it with others. Tune in the first Wednesday of next month as we discuss another Pennsylvania winery. Until then, cheers!
Thanks for listening to Wine Time PA with your host Rob, Holly, and Steve. We hope you enjoyed our take on Pennsylvania wineries and all that they have to offer. Please be sure to like and subscribe to this podcast. Also, be sure to follow them on social media for updates and news. Remember, when it comes to wine, drink what you love.